Hello, everyone. Welcome to Journaling for Your Mental Health. My name is Allie, and I just want to give you a little bit of an introduction to this practice. And I'm going to share a little bit about me if we haven't met already, because I'm kind of a new, I say kind of because I just started in my office, but I'm a new practitioner at Soul Centered Wellness. So, what I'm going to do today is give you that introduction. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my mental health journey so that you can kind of see where we relate or where we don't. But I feel like everyone has a mental health journey. So, I think we will definitely have something in common if you are a human. um, I want to talk to you a little bit about the top 3 reasons why you should have a journal practice for your mental health, what my daily practice looks like, and some tools that you could use, different things that you can track for your mental health. And then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about if you want to go deeper and we want to do some work together. I'm going to talk to you about how you can do that with me. So, a little bit about me and my background. So, I'm currently a sacred plant medicine practitioner. So, the main primary offering that I do at Soul Centered is medicine. So, I serve combo, which is a frog medicine, and within a combo session, we also work with hape, which is another plant medicine. It's finely ground tobacco. Um, and the reason that I work with combo and what led me there was my mental health journey, which I'll get into a little bit. So, in addition to being a plant medicine practitioner, I'm also a Reiki practitioner, and I just kind of do that as part of my other offerings. I don't offer Reiki by itself. I am also a coach. So, I've been coaching for a very long time. And recently, I fine tuned my coaching packages to really focus on working on your mental health journey, because that's what I'm most interested in working with people on as part of their journey. I have done life coaching, business coaching. I also do writing coaching, but really working with people on their mental health and helping them kind of get on track and in a place where they feel like their mental health is in their control to the best of their ability, because we can't always be in control of everything, but if you're in a relationship with your mental health, I think that is the goal, and is really the goal of this journaling process as well. So I'm also the co-owner of a personal development company called The Expanded Human. I have my master's degree in leadership, and I was actually just accepted. This is the first time I'm saying it, so if you watch it, keep it under wraps. I haven't announced it yet, but I was accepted as a research fellow to begin my PhD. I'm really excited about all of that. And I've been building my own business for the past couple years. I've been working on it on the side while I was climbing the corporate ladder and getting super burnout. And I am really excited to be full time in my business and to be doing the things that I love. Um, I'm also a writer, so I've been working on a book for a long time on the side of all the things. I'm a writing coach. So I work primarily with healers. So that's kind of how all the things that I do work together. I work with healers or people on their healing journey. And in the writing, I work with healers or people who are tapped into their spirituality, who are at the point that they're ready to share their healing journey. And I help people kind of get that out on paper. And sometimes they go on to wanting to pursue publishing it, or sometimes really the work is just the writing of it. So all of those things are all just different ways you can work with me. So um, and they have all really been born out of my own mental health journey. So writing is because I've been a writer for a long time, and that is how I worked through a ton of my things in my mental health journey. So that's why that's there, and why I'm so passionate about it. So, into the nitty gritty. So, I have been diagnosed, and sorry, caveat, I'm going to be using terms that I think will resonate with everybody and make sense with everybody. I do want to put the disclaimer on there that I no longer view my diagnosis as an illness. I do not see it as a negative part of me. I'm very much in relationship with the fact that I am bipolar, and I only call it bipolar because that is like the term that is generally understood in the mental health community. I really just see it as who I am at this point, but I want to use these terms because I feel like it tends to help people start to make sense of their own relationship with their mental health if I use terms that are kind of more mainstream. So that's just so you understand why I'm using those terms, but that they're not necessarily aligned with my personal belief system. Okay. So my mental illness that was diagnosed is bipolar 2 when I was 22 years old. So I had just started my MBA. And at that point, my therapist was like, I don't even know how you got through your undergrad because, um, my symptoms at that point, I was cycling very quickly. So my mania was very scary. I would black out for like a day or two sometimes because my brain was just on another wavelength. Like I had to, just to be able to sleep at night, I had to drink or have sex or run for hours or just exhaust myself just to shut my brain off. And then on the flip side of it, my depressions were very scary. I suffered from suicidal ideation for many years. I was in and out of therapy. I could never really click with the therapist because to be honest, I wasn't taking it seriously for very long. And I just thought that there was too much wrong with me that no one was ever going to be able to help me anyway. So I should just deal with it, which I firmly believe is the opposite of how it should be, because I've through my work discovered that I don't think healing in any way should be done alone. I think that we were never meant to do any of this alone. I think that we were meant to heal together, and that's why we're all on earth together. So, um, when I was diagnosed or I was given that information, eventually when I started to be like, okay, in order to be an adult in the world and have relationships and do the things that I had dreamed of doing my whole life, I needed to be in a better place with my mental health. So that's really what started my mental health journey on a small scale. So my mom and I sat down and we tracked back, and thank God for my mother. Um, my symptoms started when I was about 15, and that was when I had severe brain trauma. So I was in very quick succession. I had about 5 concussions from. I'm sorry, it's very cold in my office. That's why I keep doing this. Um, I had a car accident. I broke my nose during a soccer game. I was slammed on a basketball court. I was in another car accident. Like it was just like really quickly within like a year span, I had all of this injury happen to my brain. And through tracking all of that and then working with a few therapists, we think that my bipolar symptoms, that was the onset that like things kind of got shaken loose in my brain. And that was really when I started having struggles in school. That's when I started having problems being able to focus on things. But it was also really the onset of my creativity going through the roof. So that's really kind of up until that point, I was just like kind of like a nerd and I would read books and play soccer. I didn't really have a whole lot happening. I wasn't a bad kid. Like I was just there. And then when all of this happened is when like my life kind of imploded. So I got through college, I got through my undergrad somehow, got through to the point of being diagnosed bipolar. And at that point, I felt like um, I just had this stigma that, oh my God, well, that makes sense. And also, I need to drop out of my MBA because I can't do this. You can't have a serious mental illness and go through grad school, which was complete limiting belief, which I obviously obliterated later in my life. Um, so at that point, I still wasn't in a good place. When I actually, and I want to fast forward a little bit for time. So when I actually got to the point of being on my mental health journey and figuring things out and getting to a good place that I feel like I'm always going to be healing. I feel like there is no such thing as healed. But the point that I was on where I was actually in healing and in relationship with my mental health was after my son died. Um, so I carried him to 5 months. I went into labor early. Um, they couldn't stop the labor, and when he was born, he was too little. His lungs were too little. So after I gave birth to him, I think they said he lived for about 6 minutes, but um, I feel like he was just too little. He tried to take a breath and he couldn't. So um, at that point, my mental health hit a very, very, very scary low. Um, I apologize if this is triggering, talking about suicide for you, if you're watching this, but I did try to commit suicide. I took pills, and I think a part of me didn't take as much as I needed to actually die. I don't know how else to say that. I woke up covered in my own vomit in the bathroom. My husband was away. Um, this was about a month or two after um, we lost him, and we had moved out of my parents' house. We were trying to make it, and he had died a month after our wedding. So our marriage was still very new. I just felt so much shame for so many things, and guilt, and I had no hope. But when I woke up, um, I I will never forget that feeling of scared for what I almost did, and this feeling like, okay, I'm here. I woke up for a reason. I'm here for a reason, and it's time. So that's really when my journey went in the direction of I was then building a relationship with myself and journaling. Immediately, I grabbed a journal that day. That's why you were wondering where I was going with this. You're like, why is she telling us all this backstory stuff? That day, grabbed a journal that after I cleaned myself up and took a shower, called my mom. It took me many years to tell her about that phone call, but she kind of had a feeling because I just called her and I just kept saying, I love you. I love you. I love you. Thank you for everything you've ever done in my life. I pulled out a journal and I wrote down exactly how I felt in that moment. And then I called and made an appointment with a therapist, um, and was able to get in the next day. In hindsight, I probably should have gone that same day, but I was just like happy to get in when I did. And I took with me that notebook that I wrote down all of these things because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to replicate it or be able to articulate it if I wasn't in that moment anymore. And that changed everything because up until that point with my therapist, I was just like every time I was in there, I'm like, I feel okay. I'm here. Things are all right. And we weren't really getting a lot of work done because I didn't have much to come to the table with because when I was there, I really was kind of feeling fine. But when I woke up covered in my own vomit, I was not fine. And I wrote down exactly how I felt. And so I took my journal in and I went, I need help for this person. And then she put me on medication and we tried things. So that was the start of my journey. So throughout all of this up to this point, at this point in my life, I am not on medication, which I just want to say is a very personal decision. It is something that everyone needs to decide for themselves. I want to say that medication does work for a ton of people. And I know that there is a stigma out there on being on medication for mental health, thinking that I've worked with people, I've coached people who are like, feel like they're failing because they're on medication. And I just want to say that in my belief system, that is not a failure whatsoever. If you find a medication that works for you, that helps you in your life, that is a huge win. That's a huge win. For me, medication did not work, probably for a lot of reasons. I have a really hard time taking in other things. Like I tried to take birth control for a long time, and that didn't agree with my body. Like I have to be very specific with what I put in my body, and medication did not help. So therefore, I use journaling and a very consistent tracking method that I made up, um, because everything that I found online didn't really fit how I was feeling. I used a couple different things, but I made up how I was going to track myself, and I figured out how I could monitor and be in relationship with my mental health and thrive and get to the point of where I'm at today with this method. So I have fine tuned this over the years. Um, but I want to share with you what I do on a day to day basis. So I want to say the top 3 reasons why you should do this yourself is to build a close relationship with yourself, which is the most important thing, regardless of if you still view, I'm sorry, I said still, regardless of if you view your mental health as an illness, or if you view it as something that's a part of you that you need to keep track of, or whatever is the best way to understand yourself is the best way to understand yourself. You get to be the expert on your life. You have to be the expert on your life. No one, and I'm sorry if this is a little bit of tough love, or if you've never heard this before, but no one in your life should care about you and your mental health more than you do. You need to be the expert on your mental health. You need to be the person that cares the most about your mental health and your body and everything else after that. But I know we're just talking about mental health here. So I'll stay on that topic. But you, your therapist isn't going to care more than you. Your spouse isn't going to care more than you. Your mom isn't going to care more than you. Your friends, no one is going, because they all have their own shit and they all have everything else going on in their life. You need to be your number one priority. And journaling on a consistent basis can help you develop that relationship with yourself, because you need to be an expert on you. So that number one. Anything else, there's a lot of other really big positives, but that's the number one thing. You need to be in close relationship with yourself. And in order to better understand who you are and your mental health and your soul and everything about you, I think, and it's what's worked for me, journaling every single day consistently has helped me to understand myself on a level that I don't know if I would have ever gotten here if I hadn't picked up journaling, to be honest. I think it definitely took me from a place that was a very dark place to teaching a class on it right now. So the number 2 thing is, and this is a really big one because I don't think this is talked about enough. This can help you with your therapist. Okay. So this does not in any way take the place of therapy. Everybody needs a therapist. You need a therapist. I need a therapist. My mom needs a therapist. My therapist needs a therapist. Everyone should be in counseling or in therapy in some way. Um, the mental health coaching that I do is on the side, is next to therapy. I very much require that if you are working with me on coaching and we are working through your mental health, that you are also working with a therapist, because that's how much I think that therapy is important in this world. Because and it can take a while for you to find the right therapist. um, and I also have someone that I can refer to internally through Soul Centered Wellness, or I also have other people that I trust, or another part of the coaching is I can help you find a therapist, or I can be there for you, because going to the first therapist that you've ever gone to, they may not stick. It might not be the right fit, and you got to keep going back and you got to find the right one. And that's a huge part of this. So when you show up to therapy and you're able to bring your journal and your consistent tracking of yourself, they can better help you. And because you're in a closer relationship with yourself, you're your own expert, and you're coming to them, and you guys are co-creating this therapy together. Because this is something that people need to understand. So I want to talk about it too. If you're working with a coach, if you're working with a spiritual healer, if you're working with a therapist, if you're working with any of these people, we are all people that are helping you on your path, but you need to be that person that is in the driver's seat. So there's all these different ways that you can get help in your life from different healers and from a therapist and from a psychiatrist. If you're going on medication, coaching, I do plant medicine, which is another modality, Reiki, seeing Jocelyn as a shaman. All of these different modalities are tools and support systems, but you are the center of all of that. And you need to be in control of your relationship with yourself. This is all leading into you being an expert on your own mental health. The third top thing, and I talked about it a little bit, is tracking medication. So when you start a new medication for mental health, it is kind of a shit show because you and your psychiatrist you're basically trying to figure out what's the best thing that works for your body. And based on a number of factors, they're going to make an additional recommendation on like what medication would work based on what has worked for other people. But you don't have any information for you if you've never tried medication for mental health before to know what's going to work. So it's kind of like it's an educated guess on what they're recommending for you based on their bajillion years of experience, all the research that's out there, what's worked for other people, and based on what you're sharing with them. So caveat to that is if you're not sharing the right information, if you're not properly able to communicate what it is you're going through, that medication may be a little bit off. So again, journaling, if you track it consistently and you have patterns that you're able to show your therapist or psychiatrist, they can better help you help yourself, or they can better recommend things for you. So again, really those are like three things, but again, the main thing is that you need to be an expert on your life. You need to be that expert, and there's a lot of ways you can do that, but since you're listening to me, my number one recommendation is to journal every single day. So getting into what that looks like, here's what my journaling looks like. And if we work together in coaching, we develop like what's the best thing for you to track, but I'm going to share with you what I do. Okay. So I journal 2 times a day at this point. I journal right when I wake up in the morning, and then I journal at night. And sometimes, and I'll get into it, if I'm in a depression, because if you don't know what bipolar is, I have mania where I'm in a high, and I have depressions where I'm in a low. And sometimes I'm in this like weird phase in between. I, at this point, like to think of it as like moon cycles, right? Sometimes there's a full moon, there's a new moon, there's waning and waxing in between. That's kind of like how my bipolar and how my life is at this point. So, but very consistently, morning and night. So in the morning, 3 things I write down: morning mood, gratitude, and hope for the day. So I have developed these things as what helps me, because morning mood is an indicator of where I'm at in my mental health. So if I wake up in the morning, and I've developed over the years, I know my default when I wake up in the morning is I'm good. I'm happy to be alive. That has taken me a long time to get to that point. That wasn't always my default. But if I open my eyes in the morning and I'm happy to get licked in the face by my dogs, and I'm happy to get up and go feed them, and I'm happy to roll over and see my husband. And when I say happy, what I really mean is content. So, like happiness, like I don't want to get that confused with like I open my eyes and I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Like joy, like yes, like fist bump. Like what I really mean is I wake up and I am content. I'm good. So that's my normal. And if I wake up and I'm writing like my morning mood, if I wake up and I'm like, fuck this day, you take care of the dogs. I'm done here. I don't even want to get out of bed. If my dogs are licking my face, I'm like, get away from me. And I just like want to curl back under and I want to pull the covers over my head. And I write that down as my morning mood. That can mean a number of things. That can mean obviously you want to take into account outside factors that like maybe that's happening because my husband and I had a fight, or maybe I'm stressed about something going on at work, or maybe whatever. But I always take into account what's going on. So I write, so that if a morning like that, I would write, I'm not good. I don't feel good in my body. My mood is that I'm not really excited to pull these covers down and head out to my day. I'm just like not feeling it. And then I just move on and go to the next thing. I don't spend a lot of time in that space though, because I'm very busy. So I just want to note that like I journal about it, and then I make tweaks throughout my day based on what's going on. So the next thing I write, so it's morning mood, gratitude, and hope for the day. The gratitude is a consistent thing that everyone should do regardless. If you write nothing else in the morning, you should write a piece of gratitude, something that you're grateful for every single day, because a gratitude practice is really like it's medicine, right? So like if you can muster inside of you something that you're grateful for every single day, your your shifts in your life are going to become very apparent. So when I say something that you're grateful for, I don't mean I'm grateful to be alive, or I'm grateful to have clothes to put on my body. You know what I mean? Like I don't, when I say gratitude, something you're grateful for, it should be very specific. So and sometimes it comes from the day before, sometimes it's from something that like happened immediately. So a lot of the time I'm grateful that my dogs are coming in the morning and kissing me because I'm obsessed with them. Or maybe like Eric rolled over and like in the middle of the night we cuddled a little bit, so I'm grateful for that. Or I'm grateful for something that we did yesterday. So the reason that I start every day with gratitude, even if it was something the day before, is because all the like I know tomorrow morning I'm going to be writing something that I'm grateful for. So throughout my day, if like something were to happen, um like he would, like if Eric brought me a cup of coffee, Eric is my husband, if he brought me a cup of coffee, or if I came in like today and my office at the center just like felt really nice and smelled good, like I'm like, oh, that could be something I'm grateful for tomorrow morning. So I'm constantly looking for something to be grateful for, which is a state of mind that is really like a really positive place to be. So the third thing I write is hope for the day. That is something that I have been writing since the day I woke up from trying to kill myself, because that was why I went down that hole in the first place, because I didn't have hope for the future, which is something that if you've ever lost a child, um, you know that when you lose someone who is older, you grieve memories. And if you lose a child, you grieve the future that will never be. And that's why I had no hope for the future after I lost my child. So every single day I write something that I am hopeful for that day. And big hopes really like were hard for me to tap into at that point. So again, it's small, it's for that day. I write down something like I'm really hopeful and excited. You can think of it as something you're excited for. I have hope for the day as it doesn't resonate with you. Um, like something that I'm really hopeful for and really excited about. So if I have like a really fun workout planned, or if I have plans to see a girlfriend later that day, or if we have a movie night, or if I'm excited about something at work, or this is another really good practice, because you have to start really, like if you have nothing to write that you're hopeful for or that you're excited about for the day, that is a lot, that tells you a lot of information about where your work is going to be in your mental health journey. So that's something really important. So that's my morning mood, gratitude, hope for the day. At night, I journal again on my mood, so my nighttime mood. And I always write about like, factors that could have played into it. So like if I had a really shitty day and I'm going to bed and I'm not feeling great because of my shitty day, like, that isn't necessarily tied to my mental health, but it could be. And the reason that you can start tracking this over time, so this is a very micro view, But if you start to look at like your past week of my nighttime mood versus my morning mood, that's when you can start to see patterns. Okay. So in one snapshot of a day, this gives you a little bit of information, but not necessarily a lot of information that you can do anything with your therapist or with, you know, your mental health journey or whatever. But over a period of time, that's the kind of information that you're able to actually take. So I can see that, like, and this has helped me in my business too, just like, you know, on a different level. The days, like, I've looked back, and the days that I had a shit ton of anxiety were also days that I was doing something very specific in my business that I noticed, like, wow, I had so much anxiety on all of these days that I was doing this kind of coaching and serving this kind of client. Maybe I shouldn't be maybe I shouldn't be doing that anymore. Or you can look and say, okay, I had anxiety on all of these days that I saw this particular person, or I had anxiety on all of the days that I had this particular thing in my schedule, right? So over a period of time, that's how this information is going to start to help you. And you're able to kind of like build your journey around it. And again, this is all like, I'm trying to be super high level, but these are all very specific things that we would work together on one-on-one if that's something you're interested in. So the other two things at night, nighttime mood, I give myself a medal and hope for tomorrow. So what I mean by give myself a medal, this is something that I took from my friend Jen Pasteloff. She's an incredible author, and I love her so much. And I went to one of her workshops in New York for my birthday. And something that she does is she has everybody write down, she calls it, she's like, give yourself a fucking medal. And it's like we don't really give ourselves enough credit, I think, for just getting through the day. So some examples of my medals that I've given myself literally was I took a shower today, which is a huge medal up on your board when you're in a really deep, dark depression. And I think that that's really important. I think being able to give ourselves credit sometimes for just being able to get through the day. If you really struggle with mental health, giving yourself a medal is huge because you're able to start seeing these little wins add up over time, and you're able to start recognizing yourself for all of the work that you put in that really goes unnoticed. Like, mental health is something that is always put on the back burner. It's something that's always last on our priority list. And it's something that not a lot of people recognize as important. And it's not nearly as rewarded as outward um, outward work. So like if you break your leg and then you go through therapy, like you have really and like then you start to be able to walk again and you're in physical therapy, you have very tangible milestones that you're getting to and little medals along the way. In your mental health journey, you don't necessarily have that. So this is a way that you can create that for yourself and create little wins along the way. And just to be able to be like, I'm actually doing it. I'm doing the work. So the third thing is hope for tomorrow. Again, I add this in, hope for the day and hope for tomorrow, because hope was something I struggled with so much. So your three things in the morning and at night might look different than mine, but I really feel like hope for tomorrow, hope for the day and hope for tomorrow. Just saying that like gets me like a little misty-eyed and emotional, because God, just being able to write something that I have hope for the next day was a huge feat for me. Like, I had to sit and think about it. Now it just comes natural to me because I've been working for so long, and I am so goddamn grateful to be alive. So I can come up with hope for tomorrow easily, but that was such a struggle for me for such a long time. And if you're able to consistently every single day have hope for the day and hope for tomorrow, you're able to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you're able to keep moving. And that is a huge piece of your mental health journey, is the hope and the will to keep going, because it is not always easy. This work is hard work. And if I haven't yet, I want to acknowledge you for being here, because this is hard work. So getting into this, and this, I'm going to do this very high level because I'm at a pretty long time in this, but other things that I have tracked throughout the years that were indicators for me. And the reason I track certain things is because I have different indicators on if I'm going into mania versus if I was going into a depression cycle. And versus when PTSD was coming on from my the trauma around when I lost myself. Like I was in the hospital for a week. I've worked through a ton of PTSD from that. I've worked through PTSD from waking up after that night that I tried to commit suicide. I have a lot that I worked through, and I have a ton of anxiety about certain things. So tracking has looked different for me when I've been trying to figure out a different piece. But the kinds of things that you could track, which again would be personalized if we would work together. Sleep is a big one. Actually, if you look up like, or you think about it, when they're asking you all of these indicators on like trying to find if you're depressed or not, or where you're at, these are all the things that they look at. So sleep is a big one, your appetite, and for all of these, it's either, if it's gone either direction, is worthy of writing down. So if you're getting less sleep or if you're sleeping way more, that's something to track. If your appetite, that's another big one. So if you're overeating or if you're not eating anything, if you have energy shifts. So I like to use that rather than mood swings, because mood swings can happen based on like a lot of outside factors. Energy shifts are very intrinsic. So like throughout the day, if you woke up in the morning and your morning mood was like good, thumbs up, and then like midday out of nowhere and there were no outside factors that you can tell contributed to it, that's something to write down. So like when your energy shifts but you can't really like attribute it to anything outwardly. And the reason I want to write that down is because there's no outward factors a lot of the time. There's a lot of factors internally, and that we need to start tracking, that journaling can help with. So there's a ton of belief systems that like that chemical imbalances in your brain are the reasons that we have mental health issues. That there's, different, that we're out of alignment with who we truly are. And that's where a ton of anxiety comes from. Like there's all these different things, but you can't get aligned with what your belief system is until you kind of figure out, sorry, let me back that up. You can't really figure out, where you're going until you like line up with like what your belief system is. So this can help you do that. Where you get stuck. So what I mean by that is like where you feel a big piece of having anxiety is this paralysis, or this feeling like you're stuck, or feeling like you can't move forward. So when I have anxiety, like I get stuck in my car a lot, because like when I get to the store, and then it gives me a lot of anxiety to get out of the car and into the store. And then to actually get from the store into my car gives me another set of anxiety. And then to get from now that I'm back in my car, to get to my next destination, more anxiety. So when I'm in that place of anxiety, I've begun to notice like where I get stuck. Also leaving the house in the morning gives me, when I'm not in a good place mentally, leaving the house gives me a lot of anxiety. So noticing without judgment, and just start to track the different things that make you feel stuck or make you feel paralyzed. Anxiety triggers. So that's like, noticing when you're feeling those symptoms of anxiety that are different for everybody, and then thinking about it and pulling your journal out and writing what happened right before that, and starting to find patterns that way. I call this sharp tongue triggers. So when you snap at somebody, like someone says something and you snap back at them, and we usually snap at the people we love the most. When you have that snap, like sharp tongue, where you just like right away, I started tracking that, and I found that I was having a very sharp tongue, and I was snapping at my partner or snapping at anybody whenever something was coming up around money. So that helped me uncover that I had a very, very poor relationship with money and very deep seated issues with money that I never would have uncovered or figured out had I not started to track, like, when I was having these, every single time money would come up, even if it didn't have anything to do with me or my personal money, I got snappy. And it's because I had really, really deep, deep issues with money that then I was able to dig them up, drag them out to the surface, go to my therapist, go to the healers that I work with, and I was able to work through that particular piece. And I actually just did a financial abundance braid with Lizzie, who's one of the practitioners here. Because I've gotten to like a next point in my relationship with money. So that's another example. Another example of the sharp tongue triggers, which is a really big one, is if you snap at a particular person, or you start to snap at a particular time of day, like that is a really big trigger for me. That might not be, I'm sorry, not trigger. That's a very big reaction for me to certain triggers. You might not get snappy. That's just part of my fire. I get snappy for certain things. So I would start to write down when I get snappy, and be able to work through and notice patterns. So to kind of like bring that all together, the biggest thing with this, again, the biggest reason that you should do this is to get in close relationship with yourself so that you can become an expert on your own life. It can help you better work with your therapist. It can help you track what medications you are on or not on. Like if you're not on medication, it can help you track different things you're trying, like diet or supplements or a daily meditation practice or a daily self-Reiki practice or whatever you're doing. It can help you track these things to see what's working and what's not. You can't move forward unless you have information. And it's very difficult for other people in your life to kind of help you because they're not, no one else is in your head 24/7 other than you. So the information has to come from you, and you have to be responsible for doing those things and for tracking that information. Because once you have that information, think about if you track all of these things for a month, that is a huge amount of information that you have to start to figure things out on how to move forward. Because if you don't, there's that saying, like, you can't figure out where you're going or how to get in a better relationship with your mental health until you figure out where you are right now. And this is giving you that opportunity to do that and to become an expert on your life and on your mental health. So I hope that a piece of this served you. I hope that you got something out of this that you can start taking into your practice and in your mental health journey. I want to tell you that if you're here, I'm so grateful that you are taking this step to be in relationship with your mental health. I don't think that there is anything more important than your mental health and your ability to be an expert on your own mental health. It's going to change your life. And I think if you're here, I think if you've listened to this whole dang thing, that you are absolutely meant to be doing this work. And I'm so proud of you. And I'm grateful that, I had an opportunity to be able to share a little bit of my story. Because I think that that's a big reason why I woke up, and why I'm still here, so that I can share my story. I can share the dark jungle that I've walked through, so that I can light a path for other people to do that too. So with that, I am offering coaching during this time of COVID and the pandemic. They will be done virtually. We are starting, once it goes to yellow, to be able to allow people in one by one. But at this point, my coaching is virtual, but they're either in-person or virtual sessions. And then we schedule some holistic sessions to kind of get you moving on a certain healing path. So you can pick, I have a couple ones that you can pick from. We can do a one-on-one yoga session. I can personalize meditations for you. We can do a hape ceremony. sound healing ceremony, Reiki. Like there's different things that you can pick from in addition to the coaching that we do together. And a big part of this is helping you kind of get going and give you the tools so that you can be on your mental health journey or continue your mental health journey forward after working with me. I am not the person that you are going to see for years and years and years. Mm-mm. I am the person that we are going to get in. We are going to find what's not working. We're going to figure things out. You're going to get some tools. You're going to get on your way. And I hope that you come back for maybe some medicine sessions or you come back to visit. I am not the person that is just an ongoing thing. My biggest thing is to get you the tools, get you unstuck, and make you autonomous so that you don't need me anymore. That's my biggest thing. So if that is interesting to you, or if you'd like to talk to me more about that, please send me a message. I will post my link here. And if you've watched all of this, we are doing this week for um, the animals, sorry, Kindness to Animals Week at Soul Centered Wellness. Um, we are donating everything to Zoe's House Rescue, which is a local rescue, which is dear to my heart because I have two rescue dogs, like I talked about, and they have gotten me through so much. So if you are financially able and you'd like to send a donation, the link is in this event to Jocelyn Botner. And if you're not financially able, that's totally fine too. The world is kind of in chaos right now. So you just feel into what's the best thing for you. If you'd like to have a conversation with me, our first conversation, it's a free session. Basically, we get on the phone, tell me about your story. I tell you about what I can do to help, and we go from there. So I'd love to connect with you. I'm so grateful that you're here. And I hope that if you take nothing else from this, it's that you need to be an expert on your own life, and you deserve that time and dedication for you to become that expert. So I'm sending you all of my love and all of my heartfelt gratitude for you and your life and for your mental health journey. I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm happy that you're alive. I love you. I'll talk to you soon, hopefully.